starting with one of the most widely used amongst the Global Mangrove Alliance. It's the Global Mangrove Watch. So with that, we're going to transition to Lamart Hilardis from the Wetlands International team and also a steer co-organization to the Global Mangrove Alliance. And with that, we're going to hand it over to Lamart, who's also going to give us a live demonstration of the Global Mangrove Watch. Lamart, over to you, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Christina. Just checking if everyone can see the screen. Yeah, excellent. Just very quickly, my name is Lamart Hilardis. I'm a Senior Technical Officer for Wetlands International. I work on the mapping and monitoring of wetlands, more specifically mangroves. And I'm going to give you a lightning speed introduction of the Global Mangrove Watch platform, but focused on how it can support the NDC process. So I'll do a quick live demo of the platform and show you some relevant data sets and how they can contribute. And I know live demos can be a bit risky, but I was willing to take the risk because if it works, it's a much better demo than a set of static slides could be. So Global Mangrove Watch provides data about mangroves, not strictly mangroves, but things that are relevant to mangroves at the global, national and local scale. The nationally determined contributions, of course, are relevant at the country level, and therefore for this demonstration, I will use the country of Mozambique as an example, but most of the data is available for every country that has mangroves. Now, roughly, Global Mangrove Watch can be used to support the NDC process in 3 different ways. So it can be used to set targets, to support implementation, and also to do reporting. And we have data layers that are relevant both for mitigation interventions as well as adaptation to climate change. Just a very quick introduction to the user interface. Most of the screen is a map, and on the left-hand side of the screen you will find what we call widgets. They're just summaries of what you're looking at on the map. Then a few things that are relevant is we have this widgets deck that we call it, where you can switch on and off all the different layers as well as widgets. So for example, now I think just the mangrove habitat extent is relevant, and I just have this single widget on the left-hand side. And you'll see in this widget there's a download button. So all the data we produce ourselves is available under an open license that can be used for your own analysis as well. There's some information about how these layers were produced, and you can switch on and off the layers. And let's zoom into to Mozambique. And maybe to make it a bit prettier, let's go and use a satellite background. And here in this teal blue color, you see where mangroves are in Mozambique. Now, it's important to see the status of mangroves in these international policy frameworks. So let's have a look for Mozambique. In the second widget, mangrove international status. On the NDCs, it says there's a target of reducing emissions by 40 megatons of CO2 equivalents between 2020 and 2025. And we pull that data just directly from Global Climate Watch, because they collect all that data in a very structured way already. There's also information in the NDCs of Mozambique relating to adaptation that is not available directly through Climate Watch yet in this same structured way, but Mozambique's NDC includes regeneration of mangroves as part of a goal to build resilience of fisheries. So I'll show you something about that. And it set a target to expand restored mangroves to 5,000 hectares by 2025 to build fishery resilience, and also on coastal protection. So when setting these targets, I'll just switch off everything that's not relevant to keep a good overview. The fisheries, we have this layer, and here you see in the purple shades the areas that are more intensely fished than the lighter, call it the yellow, light orange shades. So this could help you prioritize where to restore this mangroves. And on the coastal protection side, this is data that is only available at the country level, but they're interesting statistics. So they provide insight into the area that mangroves are expected to protect during storms that could occur annually, or once every 25 years, or once every 100 years. And you can switch between these different scenarios. And you can switch also between different layers that show you the area protected, or the number of people protected, or stock that is protected, expressed in US dollars, and switch between these scenarios. Ultimately, NDC-related interventions revolve around mangrove conservation and mangrove restoration. And on the conservation side, the following layers are important. So we have the mangrove extent that I showed earlier, which just shows you where the mangroves are in your country. So where do you find mangroves? Then we have one layer that has information about the carbon, both in the biomass and in the soil of these mangrove ecosystems. So here, especially if you zoom in, you see the darker brown colored areas have higher carbon stocks than the lighter colored areas. And also you could look at which areas are already protected or not. And I realize on the satellite background, it doesn't show us clearly, but if we move back to the white background, you see these blue areas are protected areas, and outside of that is not protected yet. Currently, this is only strictly protected areas, so it doesn't include OECMs yet. It will be added in the near future. So now let's go back to Mozambique's specific target of restoring 5,000 hectares of mangroves, or increasing the restored area to that 5,000 hectares. Global Mangrove Watch can be used to identify and prioritize these restoration areas. So first, let's have a look to why mangroves are so important in carbon sequestration. We have the emissions mitigation widget, and this basically shows you on the left-hand side the potential for emission mitigation of mangrove-related interventions, and on the right-hand side, other ecosystems. Obviously, peatlands are still number one in this context, but compared to, for example, forest and grassland-related interventions, mangroves have significantly more potential on a per hectare basis. Now let's have a look at areas that have been lost. Those are the areas that you will find in red here. So especially these coastal fringes, heavy eroded. because you can't really restore areas of mangroves where there never were any mangroves in the first place. So it's important to know where mangroves have been lost. And also you can see in Mozambique, a total area of almost 16,000 hectares was lost between 1996 and 2020. So that target area of 5,000 hectares seems to be quite realistic and sort of represents a 30% of the total area lost. Then one thing, these red areas is the loss until the year 2020. So in our current data set, the time series stops in 2020. But by adding a second data set on mangrove alerts, we can actually look at areas of more recent loss. So this is where mangrove areas were lost since 2020. And I can just quickly give you one example here in the Zambezi Delta, where let's go back to 2020, and I'll hide the alerts. And it looked quite green and healthy. And if we go to a recent date, you see there's quite some dieback. It's just 200, 300 hectares of dieback it's probably due to damming and hydrological disturbance here at the beach. My final widget I wanted to show you, I'll zoom out a little bit, is on the restoration potential. So with this layer, we stop looking at the pixel level, but we start looking at typological units, so larger areas of mangroves, and aggregating the statistics there. So how much mangrove was lost, what was the driver of loss, what's the biophysical potential for restoring mangroves in those areas. So for example, here, you see the type it's an estuary. The maximum mangrove area is just under 11,000 hectares. We lost 2,000 of that, and we consider around 1,000 hectares to be restorable. So this could be an area that significantly contributes to that NDC target of 5,000 hectares. And on a scale of 0 to 100, it has a biophysical score of 94. So relatively high potential for restoration in this area. And if you want to look into the details, you can look here and also in the publications listed here. So I realized this was a really fast lightning introduction of the Global Mangrove Watch, but I hope I've shown you that there's a lot of relevant data sets on there that can be usable in your context as well. A few frequently asked questions that maybe I'd like to answer now is the Global Mangrove Watch is a globally consistent data set. So what we call mangroves is globally consistent. And we realize that differs with national maps sometimes because they align much more logically to national level policy frameworks and definitions. And when possible, therefore, we show these side by side. So if data licenses and sharing agreements allow for it, we can show national level maps side by side to the Global Mangrove Watch layers. And in that sense, I think they're very complementary also to the monitoring systems demonstrated earlier by Panama and Mexico. Finally, we're working on an update of our maps that will increase the period we cover from 1990 till 2024 and significantly improve the accuracy in locations that we identified since releasing the last version in 2022, based on lots and lots of user feedback. And finally, we will be scaling the mangrove loss alerts to a global level by the end of this year. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Lamart. The demonstration really brings home the power of near real-time mapping and spatial analysis, and not just to monitor change, but to inform where and how to act. And it's great to hear how the Global Mangrove Watch can be a complement to national monitoring systems.